What's up, everyone? Prism Meller here, and I'm going to do another top 10 list, and it's going to be top 10 albums that I love but everyone else hates. So, for this list, it's mainly the albums that many people hated for some reason, like they have like a much different sound or, you know, this and that. But I'm going to explain why I like it, and that's just pretty much it. I'm not going into like further details here, so without further ado, let's get started. Alright, now, number 10, I got Marilyn Manson's The Golden Age of Grotesque. Now, I know many Manson fans love this album, but other non-Marilyn Manson fans actually dislike this album. To me, I'm not really a biggest fan of Marilyn Manson, but I really like this album a lot. It's definitely his heaviest album. This one kind of has more like its new metal type sound to it. As I pretty much explained before in my Marilyn Manson ranking, that some of the elements from this album sounds a bit like Korn and all that. And I actually really enjoy this album. That's pretty. I guess I just don't know. I just don't get the criticism. What I looked on, according to Wikipedia, the album had mixed reviews, and it's pretty much given like an average rating, and it's considered this to be the band's weakest album, and saying it lacked the lyrics compared to the Procedures. And I strongly disagree. It's actually my second favorite Manson album behind Mechanical Animals. But but that's pretty much all I have to say here. I don't want to go into like further detail. Next at 9, I have Trivium's The Crusade. Now, this album is extremely hated whenever it came out. But for me, I actually thought this was an amazing album, amazing thrash album. Usually it's metal elitists that have much hatred for this band because of its metalcore sounding from their first two albums. And according to like reviews, it pretty much had more like a mixed review for this one. Many people said that it's sound too much like Metallica's 80s materials, and they just pretty much abandoned their metalcore materials, if you know what I mean. They mostly abandoned the screaming, even though there's still some screaming and a little bit of metalcore on there, but most of it is just pure thrash metal, and they would just return to their screaming and growling on their next album, Shogun. But to me, I thought that this was Matt Heafy did most songwriting, and I thought the songwriting for throughout this album is amazing. I mean, yes, it does has a few filler songs like "And Sadness Will Sear" and "The World Can't Tear Us Apart," but it doesn't really bug me or anything like that. But most of it just has amazing songwriting throughout, and I just love this album a whole lot. Alright, now, number 8, I got Ozzy Osbourne's Black Rain. I actually really like this album, mainly because of Zakk Wylde's riffs throughout this album. I think the main reason why it's hated, I guess maybe the production. I think the producer is the same producer who did most Five Finger Death Punch albums. But to me, I could care less about who the producer is. I'm just more about the music itself than the producer. But But yeah, it can no longer top all these 80s materials and whatnot. But it does have some great songs like Not Going Away, Don't Want to Stop. Um, why I really like this album is mainly because of Zach's guitar riffs throughout this album. He did great solos, and that's why I really like this album. Is it my favorite album by him? Absolutely not, but it's definitely not his worst. Alright, next up I have on my list is Fear Factory's Archetype. I don't see what's there to hate about this album. I think it was criticized because Dino Cazares is not in this album. I guess that's probably the reason why. I don't know. But to me, I just really love this album a whole lot. I pretty much like all songs from this album. It's one of my favorites by Fear Factory. Now, I agree. Their next album, Transgression, that album sucked. That one I agree on, but this album is just straight up amazing, and I think you should give this album a second chance. Okay, number 6, I got Testament's Demonic. Now, I don't really understand what's the hate about this album. I thought this album was amazing. Many people would put this album as their worst, unless they include their First Strike Still Deadly album, which I did not include that one because that is a re-recorded album from their first two albums, and I don't count re-recorded materials. But I really enjoyed this album a whole lot. This one has more like its death metal type sound with groove metal in it. Like, it kind of sounds a whole lot like Pantera, and I just love how dark the sounding is throughout this album. No, this may not sound like Testament to y'all, but for me, I could agree it doesn't sound like Testament, but that doesn't automatically mean it's bad. Like, I just find this album very dark, very creepy, and I just love the sound throughout this album. Okay, 5, I have Korn, See You on the Other Side. My opinion is pretty much the same for Marilyn Manson's The Golden Age of Grotesque. This one, I just pretty much like the production on this album. Is it my number 1 favorite Korn album? No. Maybe my top 5. I'd probably put it at either 5 or 6. But for this one, I really like this album a whole lot. No, it doesn't have Brian Head, their first album without Welch on there. I guess that's the reason why this album is hated. And yes, there's a few lyrics from this album that's kind of cringy, like 10 or a two-way, Getting Off. It's a little bit cringy, but it doesn't really bug me, though. I think this is their best production album. I know many people will say Untouchables has a better production because it's expensive. But to me, could care less about how expensive the production is. If it's good, then it's good. But I don't get what money has to do with wasting to make the album good. But to me, I really enjoy this album a whole lot. Yes, this one kind of has more like its industrial sound. It's kind of like the reverse with Marilyn Manson's Golden Age of Grotesque. This album, See You on the Other Side, has more like its industrial sound, and Golden Age of Grotesque has more like its new metal sound. So yeah, that's why I like about See You on the Other Side. Mainly the production throughout this album. Alright, number 4, I have Judas Priest's Turbo. I could see why this album is hated because of its glam metal type sound, and it was very hated because of the synthesizer, which I think it absolutely worked on this album. Now, Iron Maiden has synthesizer for the first time with Somewhere in Time, which that album was released the same year as Turbo. But this one, I just really enjoy this album throughout. It has one of my favorite songs. I mean, for people who hate Turbo, really like their first two songs, and then they just pretty much hate the rest of it. But for this one, I pretty much like all songs from Turbo, Locked In, Private Property, Parental Guidance. Parental Guidance may be my least favorite song from this one, but I really enjoy that one. It's mainly the lyrics. Mainly the lyrics about this song is just they don't want the parental advisory sticker on their music, mainly because the song Eat Me Alive is mainly about sucking dick on gunpoint. But yeah, I pretty much enjoy all songs from this album. I just find this album very fun to listen to. And I think the glam metal elements throughout really works on this album. So that's why I really like about Turbo. Okay, number 3, I have Dream Theater's Falling Into Infinity. Now, I can understand some of you may not like this album. It kind of has more like its lighter, mainstream, radio-friendly sound. But it's still very progressive to me. They do keep some of their elements from their first 3 albums, like songs like Lines in the Sand, and they got some really soft songs. But to me, I do think this is a really great album, and it does sound like Dream Theater to me. But is it their greatest album? No. But many Dream Theater fans would definitely enjoy this album. I don't think it's near their worst, in my opinion. But I could still see what y'all are coming from. But to me, this is a very underrated album, and I just pretty much like all songs from this album, including the what's that 6-minute ballad track? I think it's Hollow Years. That's right. Hollow Years. Even Hollow Years, I do like that song. Even though it's my least favorite song from that album, I still love it. But yeah, number 3 would have to be Falling Into Infinity. Okay, number 2, I have Iron Maiden's The X Factor. To me, this is a very hated Iron Maiden album, mainly because Blaze Bayley is in it, and to me, I don't see one bit of it wrong with this album. It has more like a darker approach to it, and Steve Harris didn't want. I mean, after Bruce left the band, Steve didn't want to vocals that sounds too similar to Bruce Dickinson. So he got Blaze Bayley as the vocalist, who is originally from Wolfsbane, to take over the album. Now, I can agree what many of y'all people hated Virtual 11, but the X Factor, I do think Blaze Bayley fits well with this album. But I do think this is a great change for Iron Maiden, and I just like how dark this album is. For many of you who don't like this album, I think you should give it a second chance, because this is a very underrated album. It used to be Iron Maiden's most underrated album to me, but it's now the second most underrated album. The most underrated album for me would probably be Dance of Death. But I don't think Dance of Death is hated as much as X Factor and Fear of the Dark. but I just have to put X Factor on there mainly because of Blaze Bayley in it, and Fear of the Dark only has two terrible songs, so I feel like the X Factor belongs to this list. I just really love that album. All right, the number one album that I love, but most people hated. Drum roll. Okay, here it is. It's Black Sabbath's Seventh Star. I just love this album. And I still don't understand why many people put this album very low. No, it doesn't sound like Black Sabbath. I mean, I pretty much explained the entire thing on if you see my Why It's Underrated series, if you see my Why It's Underrated video on Seventh Star, I pretty much explained everything about this album, so I don't really need to go to further details again. So, yeah, this album has Glenn Hughes on vocals, and this was originally a Tony Iommi solo project, but he was forced to name it as a Black Sabbath album due to it selling more and whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't really need to repeat myself. You want more further details? Go to my Why It's Underrated video and watch the 7-star review I did. Then you'll see what I'm talking about. But yeah, the number one album for me would easily be Black Sabbath's Seventh Star. I just really enjoy this album a whole lot. It's one of my favorite Sabbath albums. I mean, what's there not to like about this album? It's just full of catchy songs. I don't really need to go to further details here, so that's just pretty much it. Okay, guys, that's my top 10 albums that I love, but other people hated, or almost everybody hates, or whatever. But yeah, hope you all had a great New Year's, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and put the notifications on and comment and give it a like. I think I mentioned that before, but anyways, yeah, my next album ranking is it's officially going to be Kreator, which they are a thrash band from Germany, and I will be ranking them probably by next week or so, probably after my 24th birthday. After that, I'll be ranking Kreator, so stay tuned for that. So until then, I'll see y'all next time, and peace out.